Let's start with something that's a staple of nearly every desk, the paperclip. You'd think something as simple as a paperclip would have been around forever, but the truth is, its invention is surprisingly recent. In 1899, a Norwegian bookkeeper named Johan Voller needed a way to keep his documents together. He came up with the idea of a metal rod with a looped end. It was simple yet effective. He applied for a patent, but it wasn't granted at the time. Fast forward to 1901 and another patent for the modern-day paperclip was granted to William Middlebrook, an American inventor. However, the paperclip became widely used after being adopted by the military. So, who really invented it? Well, it's still a bit of a mystery. But today, the paperclip is a tool we all take for granted, used to hold documents together. But did you know it's also used in robotics and automation? Despite being over a century old, the paperclip remains virtually unchanged, proving that sometimes simplicity is all you need. Now, let's talk about something we use every day, the toothbrush. Toothbrushes date back to ancient times. The first versions were made from twigs or animal bones, with the Egyptians using what was called a chewer stick, a twig with frayed fibers at one end to clean their teeth. But the toothbrush we know today didn't really come into existence until the 15th century in China. The first toothbrushes had bristles made from animal hair. While they worked, they weren't exactly the most effective option. Fast forward to the 20th century, and nylon bristles were introduced. These synthetic bristles revolutionized the toothbrush industry, making them more efficient and allowing for a variety of shapes and sizes to meet individual needs. So, the next time you brush your teeth, remember, what was once a twig or bone has evolved into something we can't imagine living without. Moving on to something a little more modern, the computer mouse. The computer mouse was invented in 1964 by Douglas Engelbart, a researcher at Stanford Research Institute. He was working on making computers more user-friendly and needed a tool to interact with them more efficiently. At first, the mouse was nothing like the sleek device we use today. It was a wooden box with a single button connected to the computer by a wire. But this simple device was revolutionary. It changed the way we interacted with computers, making tasks like navigating the internet, playing games, and working on documents much easier. Today, the mouse is one of the most essential computer peripherals, and a huge part of modern tech. But it all started with a wooden box and a vision to make computers more accessible. What about the remote control? We all know it today as the key to controlling everything from our TV to our lights. But the journey to today's universal remote has a fascinating history. The first remote control was invented in 1950 by Zenith Electronics. It was called the Lazy Bones, and used ultrasonic waves to change TV channels. Imagine, before this, you had to get up every time you wanted to change the channel. But the real game changer came in 1972, when Mitsubishi, a Japanese company, developed the first infrared remote control. This new version was smaller, more reliable, and soon became the standard for remote controls. Now, remote controls are part of our daily lives, not just for TVs, but for everything from air conditioners to garage doors. What started as a way to avoid getting up to change channels has transformed into a tool that controls virtually every electronic device in our homes. Next, let's zip over to something we probably don't think much about: the zipper. The zipper was invented in 1893 by Whitcomb Judson, who called it the clasp locker. However, his design was bulky and difficult to operate, and it didn't catch on at the time. It wasn't until 1913 that another inventor named Gideon, who worked at the same company as Judson, redesigned the zipper into the version we know today. Gideon's redesign was much more practical and efficient, and soon zippers were adopted by the military for their uniforms and gear. Today, the zipper is one of the most versatile and widely used inventions. From clothing to backpacks, luggage, and even tents, the zipper has become an essential part of everyday life. Who knew that something so simple started with such a complex history? From the paperclip to the zipper, these everyday objects have fascinating origins that you probably never knew about. The next time you use one of these objects, take a moment to appreciate their evolution and the inventors who brought them to life. Sometimes, the simplest inventions are the ones that have the biggest impact.